us every day, to the world and to your heart. Open up your eyes and let your spirit start. Say yes to the dreams you hold inside. Let your soul be your guide.
In today's complex mortgage world, finding the right direction can be challenging. That's where Lighthouse Advisors comes in. With over 25 years of experience, we provide fractional leadership and executive oversight, guiding companies through transitions, growth, and innovation. From IMBs to brokers to credit unions to tech firms, our team of seasoned professionals is here to shine a light on solutions, ensuring your business thrives in every environment. At Lighthouse Advisors, we don't just guide, we empower. Together, let's create a ripple of success across the industry. Email us today at laura@lighthouseadvisors.com. Thank you for joining us today for another episode of Wednesday Wisdom. Today, we are joined by the fabulous Candy Sirirotpiboon. She is the Director of Client Relations at PCV Mercor. I have to tell you, we met during the NAMB DEI panel discussion, but also we serve on the committee together. And I was so blown away when I met Candy. She is 100% someone with an amazing heart, a sharp mind, the power to execute, and a passion for our industry. And I knew that I had to learn more about Candy, and I had to have her wisdom shared with all of you today. So first off, Candy, thank you so much for agreeing to share your wisdom with us. And to kick us off, what we like to do on Wednesday Wisdom is we like to first learn what is one of the best pieces of advice that you have ever received. And if you got it from a particular person, by all means, give them a shout out.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here to share, my experiences and thoughts with you guys. My best advice I've ever received was from my mom. So I am a second generation Laotian Thai American. And so I didn't grow up learning English, and my parents didn't know English when I was young. So I had to do a lot of translating when I was younger for my parents. And so the advice that she gave me was loosely translated is, if you don't, then who will? And so, she used that, very loosely whenever she asked me to return something at the supermarket for her, or, complain about something that isn't right about the check, etc. So, a lot of that, I grew up really fast when I had to kind of step up and be empowered to kind of advocate for our family, saying, hey, this doesn't look right. I don't understand how this was charged. So I learned a lot about finance when I was younger, just because a lot of that. So that was my biggest advice. And I still sort of use it today because I use it as an empowerment tool. Why not me? Or, if I don't do it, then who else?
Number one, wise woman. And yeah. I love that question because I've heard so many fabulous pieces of advice from our parents. And it really does go to show you how much of an impact and an imprint they have on all of us, right? So yeah. That saying, it's very interesting that a couple weeks ago, we had a virtual event for women, leading ladies of women. And there was a young lady that became a mortgage broker, and she hires stay-at-home moms to become loan officers. And her advice, her saying is, if not me, then who? And you just reminded me exactly that same thing. It's the same saying of, think about that in every instance, right, Candy? In every instance of our life, if not me, then who? Right? I mean, it applies in taking care of something. It applies in striving to reach for a goal, to accomplish something, right? There's so many times in our life where we kind of want to say, I'll stay quiet, or I won't go for that next thing, or I won't attempt to do that. If you know that is for someone else. That's not for me. But in your mom's advice, well, she's saying, well, if not you, then who?
Right.
So, Candy, I want to keep going in that direction. How have you taken that advice and applied that, whether it's in your personal life or your business life? How have you applied that to you, to the things that you're doing that your mom's fabulous wisdom has paved the way?
I've used that both in personal and also business. So like for any like business opportunities or just something to do outside my comfort zone, I'm like, why not? You know, let me learn from it, because I think the biggest thing I learned from that advice is that if you don't experience it, you're not going to know it. And so if you're just kind of closed off to the experience, then you're never going to say yes. And so you kind of have to empower yourself and encourage yourself that, no, you could do it. And if you fail, at least you learn from it. And then, you know what to do, what not to do.
That's exactly right. And even I want to even dive into a little with the NAMB DE&I committee, right? So of course you put in your application and you were selected and you were put as being part of the committee, and then you said yes to being on the panel, and you did amazing and you participated in all of that. Is that something that was a little out of your comfort zone, or is that something that was kind of like, nope, this is normal? So how about that experience?
That was actually out of my comfort zone, because especially being on a panel, that was my first time being on a panel. So, that was a great experience, because now I know how a panel looks like and feels, and, it's not so nerve-wracking. And so, like anything in life that you'd experience going into something, you're going to be really nervous and really anxious about it. But now that you're kind of over that hump, you're like, okay, that wasn't so bad. So then it kind of opens you up to more opportunities of things of that nature, like being more on panels, or, hey, is there another conference I could go to attend that, I could learn more. And then if I get asked to do something, out of my comfort zone, I'm not going to be so afraid to say yes. But I think that piece of advice from my mom made me have that first step of saying, you know what, I could do this. Let's do this.
If not me, then who, right? I mean, it really is. And I'll, of course, my saying is say yes every day, which means to be open to things. So you're speaking my language right now, Candy. And I will tell you the thing that I learned, right, very early on when I started stepping out of my comfort zone is, and I want to use our example, right, because it does apply to every situation. Our first experience into anything, whatever it is, it's scary. And it's scary because it's the unknown. We don't know what to expect, right? So our brain starts kind of making all these pictures and these thoughts in our head, and we don't know what's going to happen, right? So that's why it's scary. It's the unknown, right? Once you know what to expect, it's not scary anymore, because, oh, I've done this before. Now I no longer need to have that fear, right? So what I've learned, and I'll share with you, especially since now you've got that scary first thing out of the way, the most exciting part is then you sharing your experience to someone when it's their first time.
Absolutely.
Because then you're able to say, I've gotten you. Like, I've experienced this. I know exactly what you're feeling. This is, here's a little tidbit that helped me. Here's a couple of things that you could take a look at, how to prepare. Whatever it is, what it does is it solidifies what you know. It passes on to help the next person. And you're kind of like graduated to the next stage, right? So it's kind of like you're moving on to the next step. And it's a wonderful way that we all benefit, right? We're all learning, we're all growing, we're all lifting to the next.
Absolutely. You kind of add to your like little like bank of experiences and knowledge, and makes you less nervous for like the next time something of that matter comes up, like talking in public, or just going to meet new people, having new conversations, not being so intimidated about, maybe I don't know as much as everybody else, or maybe I don't present as well, but just be basically authentically you when that does happen. So you're open to, one, learning from it, two, like really experiencing it and not being so much in your head. I think that's probably like another thing I learned. I was like, I think leading up to it, I was really nervous, but I was like, you know what, just talk to the folks in the room, like, hey, just a regular conversation and it won't be so bad.
And you just nailed it with what you just said. So I'm going to backtrack of what you said. What you said was, maybe I'm not this person or that person, whatever that person is, but you know what you are? You're you.
Yeah.
Like the most beautiful part is that no matter who you're sitting next to or across from or wherever you are, they are not you, meaning they don't have your experiences. They don't have your knowledge base. They wouldn't approach it exactly the way that you would. So it makes no difference if one person, has been in the industry 30 years, or if another person has a title of whatever. None of that matters. Like that, it took me a long time to realize the biggest gift that I bring myself and you and every person out there listening to this is that we get to bring our approach to it, the way we approach it. And that is the value. You're not trying to be that person or the other person, just be you. And I know you felt that when you were on that panel, that you were like, I'm the expert here in this question, in this situation, I'm the expert. And you are the expert, because nobody else can give your experiences. No one else can give your perspective. That's your perspective. We wouldn't be able to share that. So it's a really beautiful thing, and you did an amazing job. And obviously now I hope you have that confidence to go out there and keep doing it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, because you've got it. All right. So Candy, I loved your mom's advice. I'm sure she's very, very proud and I know she's proud of you, but I'm sure she's really proud and happy that you're continuing that advice on, which is fabulous. Now we'd love to come to the time where you give a piece of your advice, something that you have, learned through your years on this planet. We'd love to know, what advice would you give to our audience that came directly from Candy?
For me, it's never stop being curious. Because the minute that you stop being curious or wanting to learn about something, you just kind of, you don't grow. And, I since I was little, I asked so many questions, wanted to know so many different facets about different things and, exploring things, And so I think if you are stagnant, I think you just don't grow. And you don't enjoy life too. Because experiencing, traveling new places, you don't get to experience that if you're not curious.
So I can't remember the quote. I wish I could remember at this moment, but there's a study out there of how many questions like a 5-year-old asks compared to an adult. And the number is huge difference, where as we become adults, we stop being curious. And, if we take an example from children that are constantly going, why, what's that? Tell me about, they want to know everything because everything is new to them. Everything is an experience. And what you just said, Candy, you're correct. Like, if we are not questioning and being curious and continuing to challenge ourselves and just explore, go somewhere new you haven't been before, go, take off your shoes and walk around in the grass or do something that's different, right? Like, if you're not growing. Exactly what you said.
You're not experiencing life, because for instance, if whenever I like to travel somewhere new, I like to explore, what restaurants are there, what things I must do there. Is there a museum I need to see? Is there, an exhibit I need to see? Or is there a restaurant by, a chef, a renowned chef, I need to go to? Or if it's the area is food, their staple, you kind of learn their culture through their food. And so there's you know, I'm a big itinerary person whenever I travel. So I think that's how like you just kind of you learn, because like you wouldn't know, you could just read it on like, you know, a textbook or go to YouTube and look at like the different areas, but you're not experiencing it. So if you kind of just dive in and just ask questions and you know, find out like, okay, like what's their main like food thing, or what's their main like culture item, or you know, what's a play they like to do, or you know, just kind of engulf yourself, especially like when I went to travel to Asia, like you know, I like traveling to like different temples, and you're learning about like
Oh,
the
wow.
different cultures and like the architecture, everything. So you just kind of like, it just opens your eyes to like, you know, this world's not so small, it's actually really big, and you just kind of have to be open to it and be, you know, curious.
I think that is phenomenal advice. I think we owe it to ourselves that those moments are very special. If we have the joy of traveling somewhere, don't just stay boxed in. You know, go outside that box and meet, you know, have conversations with the local people, right? If you're in the back of an Uber, ask questions, right? Have a conversation, learn about what's cool to do in that area, or what would be the, you know, the place that you must go to, whether it's a restaurant or like you said, a museum or something, some art gallery or whatever. Like if they had one place to recommend to go, ask them, like how cool would that be, right? I always remember, it's funny, I spend the winter in Arizona, and I had a networking event in Arizona one time, and this guy comes over and he's like, oh, where are you from? And we're having a conversation, and he's like, hold up. And I'm like, okay. And he comes over with like a little notebook, right? And I'm like, what is this guy doing, right? And he's like, okay, what kind of food do you and your husband like to eat? And like meaning like Italian food or like whatever, right? And he literally stood there writing his favorite restaurants of the different types of food that me and my husband like to eat. And he wrote down the names and all. It gave him such joy to share that with me. And I have to tell you, I went home and me and my husband went to every one of those restaurants that he wrote down. But see, if you don't have those conversations, if you're not curious, if you're not going and finding those things out, you would never know those things.
Right. And then like I have like a good example, kind of the same thing. So it was one before I moved to New York City. So I went here for a wedding, and somebody at the wedding was telling us, hey, you guys came at perfect time. They have San Gennaro's Fest.
Oh yeah.
Down in Little Italy. You should so check it out. And I was like, yes, absolutely. Let's go check it out. And then when I went there, I was like, holy, like,
yeah,
holy, there's so much food. There is
oh my goodness. Yes. But that, what a great thing to be part of. I mean, that festival is incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible. But there's a perfect example. When we have those opportunities, don't put it off. Enjoy it. Be curious, ask those questions, whether it's just, listen, I will tell you, people know this about me. Usually when I meet people, new people, I'll say, give me your story. Tell me your story. I love hearing people's stories. I love to hear where they grew up and what, you know, like how they made their way into the mortgage industry and what. I love that because people, number one, people love speaking about themselves. It's great. We enjoy speaking about ourselves. And number two, you can learn a lot about people when you ask them questions and you get to know. And that's the reason why I love doing this, because I get to hear these great words of wisdom from people that were special to their heart, and then having you share your light with every one of us. Candy, thank you so much for continuing to share your light and your wisdom with all of us. We truly appreciate you, and we wish you all the best always.
Thank you so much for having me on.